Hey guys, Greg here. Welcome to the 2017 Life Where I'm From survey. And if you've seen something like this before, you're probably thinking about Hank Green from the Vlogbrothers. He live streamed his survey results, and I totally copied the idea for the survey from him, and that's why I ended up using SurveyMonkey. And I was talking to my mom, and she said, "Are you going to share the results with people?" And I said, "Hey, why not?" So here I am doing it just like Hank Green. And by the way, something interesting about SurveyMonkey. I didn't really think too hard about whether to not use SurveyMonkey. I just saw Hank Green doing it, and I thought, hey, there must be a reason he uses it, so I did it. Then it ended up costing me a lot of money, a scary amount of money, because if you don't have the annual plan, I would have to pay, I think, a few $1,000s. But you are able to convert to the annual plan, so that's what I did. So it only cost me, like, I think $350, which is still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but I was able to collect all the answers, and your feedback is so valuable that it's definitely worth the price. But now I can do surveys all year for free because I got unlimited surveys. So every month surveys. Okay. Anyways, let's get on with the thing. Anyways. So almost 15,000 respondents. That, like, I did not expect. I thought maybe 500 or 1,000. So that's what I thought. And it's a good thing I went with SurveyMonkey, because with the Google Forms or Sheets, there's a limit to the respondents. So it would have broken quite early on if I would have used something else besides SurveyMonkey. How old are you? And this one kind of surprised me a little bit. I knew I had young viewers, but I thought they're more into, a lot in this range, the 23 to 30, and that's 30%, but there's a lot in the younger category. So even 19 to 22, so only like a 3-year range, that's 23%. And then you say 16 to 18, that's a good chunk too, 14%. And then you just keep on going down. Unfortunately, I don't have anything really younger than 10 in this primary answer, because kids under 10 aren't answering surveys. And on YouTube, it doesn't collect the stats of kids actually under 13, because technically they're not allowed to have accounts. I thought I had more older viewers, and I'm going to use the word older because I'm in this age range as well. Because a lot of, I guess, maybe emails that I get can be from older people, or people coming to Japan and contacting me. So yeah, I mean, still a good chunk. I mean, there's about, like, say 20% of the people are over 30, but 70% are under 30. Now, if you go to question 2 here, what's the age of the youngest person that's watched videos on this YouTube account? This is something that I'm really glad I did the survey on, because while 40% have no one else but me watches, you can see that now, okay, well, the youngest person in the family watching, or in the group watching, is 14% of them are younger than 10. So there is a good chunk of kids watching the videos, something I just would never be able to know beyond anecdotal stuff. So this is good to know. And honestly, when I first started making the videos, the primary audience was younger than 10. And it still is. Like, I tried to make family videos that, the whole family could watch, something you'd watch on, public television. I'm just going to open up my water here, so if you hear clicking sounds, that's what. Okay, in what country do you live in? This is not that big of a surprise, because in my YouTube stats, it largely says something similar. Although I think this is a bit skewed, because I'm asking for survey respondents to answer in English, and because of translations that you guys are doing so nicely for the channel, for us, and for everyone watching around the world, that we get people watching the videos that don't speak English, or don't speak English well enough that they'd, do a survey. So we have about 40% in the United States, 8% in Canada, and then we have UK at 6.5, Germany at 4.4, and then Australia 3, and then Indonesia, India, and it just goes down the list until you get, like, little tiny percentages. And you see Japan here. This is at only less than 1% answered. But I know that in the YouTube stats, I think this is closer to like 3 or 5%. So still not a big amount of people watching from Japan. And that totally makes sense to me, because most of her content is in English. And it's kind of everyday life stuff where, I mean, Japanese people already know what their everyday life is like. So why watch? So yeah, you just look at this list of countries. It's crazy. And I did ended up add in an other, so you can add countries that weren't in this list. And I added a few other countries based on some suggestions. So this one, I totally got this list from a Survey Monkey. They had a default list of countries, so that's where I got it from. It wasn't like some list I made up. That's way too many countries. I don't even know, honestly, half the countries. Okay, now, oh no, stop scrolling. Okay, let's see. We're skipping ahead. Now we're going to which race ethnicity best describes you. White, 40%. That I was kind of surprised about. And I mean, I guess it's not surprising because if America is 40%, and I know there's a lot of European countries and countries that used to be part of the former Commonwealth or Commonwealth countries, so from Great Britain, then yeah, there's a lot of white people. I'm half white myself. And but I guess I would fall under the multiple ethnicity, which is at 10%. But I guess a lot of people contacting us, I feel like they're, I guess, multiple ethnicities or are non-white people. So, okay, 40%. That was interesting to know. There's not really any reason to ask this question. It's just interesting to know, honestly. I think somebody asked me why the difference between Southeast Asian and Indian, and this one I totally copied from Hank Green, and his survey had these categories, so I just copied them. There wasn't any real thought on my part for why the categories exist in the way they do, but that's kind of the makeup. And if you want to see here, multiple ethnicities, half Japanese, half British and Irish, mixed, multiracial, Mongoloid. There's 1,000 responses to this, 1,400. So that's kind of the mix. And what topics would you like to see? And you can choose all that you like. That's why we have over 80%. Or I don't mean over 80%. That's why you have over 100%. And so it's largely what the popular videos on the channel are. So daily life, food, travel, adventure. Those are all pretty big. Cultural explanations, and they're all quite high in the 70s or 80s. Documentaries is closer to 50%, and this is the only one incongruous, part is that I guess what you think of documentary might change, or what I call a documentary might, is not necessarily the same as what people think a documentary is in this question. So like the ramen video, that's a food video. That's kind of a daily life of a ramen owner. That's also like cultural explanation, and it's could fit into the documentary category as well. So I mean, that's a very popular video on the channel, yet it's quite low. Same as the housing videos that I've made, are the videos about recently we did the child care center, what it's like. So those are kind of more in the mini documentary vein, but people could consider them cultural explanations or daily life. Around the world is around 32%, and that is not surprising because when I look at the videos and the people interacting with them, that's there's not as much interest in around the world videos, even though that's the reason we started the channel. And then there's a lot of ideas for what kind of videos to make. So education movies, interest in Eichel's pairs perceived the videos. I suppose now it's not too big a secret. Actually, not many of Eichel's pairs know she makes videos. She just doesn't, publish it or tell people. So not many people know, actually. Let's see here. Shopping, education around the world. Let's see here. Parent-child activities. There's so many things. Let Eichel or Shin shoot a video the way they want. That's something I've been thinking about. I'd really like them to do is, just take a camera and make it from really from their perspective. That'd be cool. There's just so many. That's 1,100 responses. So, yeah. I've been going through them and making notes and making kind of a list of ideas that I think would be cool to pursue. Now, the next question is about Patreon, and that's where you can optionally. It's an optional way of financially supporting the videos. And the number one was deleted scenes at 43%. And For those of you that know, I recently, just last month, I knocked that reward down from like a $3 level to the $1 level. So that's like the lowest level you can do a month to support the channel. So yeah, I kind of felt like if anybody's willing to even give $1 a month, they should try to get quite a bit back. Honestly, I'd love to give everything to everyone, but there has to be, I know, like when you're doing these things, you want to give somebody a little bit of incentive. But I mean, most people didn't need a financial reward. So 41% said they don't need a reward to support. So that's really nice to hear. And that's kind of what I saw too with how people, watch or, comment or, interact with the stuff I'm putting out on Patreon, the extra bonus stuff, is that a lot of people either don't see it or they don't take advantage of it. And I'm totally the same way where I support, I should go to my Patreon page here, and this is the overview page. Oh, I guess I thought it listed all the people I support. Oh, here you go, right? So here's all the people I support down here, and I hardly take any of their extra content. Every once in a while I do, but really I'm just supporting to support. The way I thought about it is if I pay for Netflix subscription, and I don't pay for cable TV. I pay for NHK in Japan, and I pay for some streaming music subscription. If I had YouTube Red, I would pay for a YouTube Red subscription if it was available in my country. I totally would. So I thought, hey, let me just take some creators that I like, and I'll give them each like $1 or $2 a month, and support them that way, because I do watch a lot of videos on YouTube. So that's what I did personally. The next reward level here is fact versus fiction, and that's at 35%. So this was a new idea I had, and the thought behind this was that I get a lot of questions about Japan, and sometimes they're just based on curiosity, like are they read something, like do they really do this in Japan? Are there some myths like there's like a high suicide rate, or they're selling panties in vending machines, or there's a lot of different beliefs that people just think are true about Japan. So I wanted to be able to address them, and I will write articles about this once a month. And I think what would be interesting is that if I get feedback from patrons about these articles, the questions you guys have, then I think these really could be the jumping off point to make full-blown videos afterwards. So this kind of could be part of my initial research. So even though it's like a Patreon reward, maybe 3-6 months or a year down the road, it would actually become a video that everyone can see. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with a lot of the rewards, is give something special, but I didn't want to put that much stuff behind a paywall. Like the vast majority of the stuff I create, I want it to be freely available to everyone. So one of the things that you guys liked as well here, went really well, was the postcards, 23%. I have really bad handwriting, so I didn't really want to do this. So I might try to get my wife to help me write postcards out. She has really beautiful handwriting, by the way. Way better than mine. But I think this would be cool. And this is at like the $15 reward level. So it's something that obviously we can't do for everyone. And if you don't get a postcard, you're not really missing out on the Lifeform from video experience. So I thought that was a kind of a nice way to do a reward. Monthly updates. This is also at the dollar level. The lowest level is the monthly updates, so that's there. Live chats, they're only at 15%. So I'm thinking about cutting this one, because for me it's a bit stressful having to schedule a live chat when everybody is available to live chat, and then do it a few days in advance, and then some things come up, but I still have to do the live chat. That being said, I really like doing the live chats, actually. I enjoy doing it. So I might just not make it part of a Patreon reward at all. I might just do randomly live chat whenever I have time, once every, couple months or something like that, as opposed to a scheduled thing. But in lieu of that, somebody suggested that you can do the Q&A, and instead of having the private ones, which weren't really that popular in here, I can just take on specific questions by people, and maybe that's could tie into the fact versus fiction. So some of the easy questions I can just answer, and make like a. So here, let me start this thought again. So let's say I get like 10 questions in a month. I will take those, 9 of those questions, which are really, easy to answer or to talk about briefly, and make a video about it. So maybe it's like a 5 or 10 minute video, and I'll post that publicly. So only the patrons can ask questions, but then publicly, I'll post that video. And then maybe one of those questions, really you can kind of dig deep into it, and I make an article out of that. So I'm thinking that will be kind of replacing what live chats used to be. But the rest, there weren't any, their early access wasn't really a big thing. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do with those reward levels. So you see I have to be determined and whatnot in these things. So, one idea that I did have just kind of out of the blue when I was writing my update for the Patreon was maybe we could have a lottery or a raffle system where for each dollar supported, it kind of buys you a ticket into the reward. And what would that reward be? Something kind of exclusive, right? So Aiko goes to calligraphy class once a week when she's in Japan. So she has very beautiful calligraphy writing, at least in my opinion. And I thought it'd be cool if you can get your name written on a nice piece of paper, with the brush strokes, in Japanese. So if you don't have a Japanese name, you can kind of like work with us to figure out what a good Japanese equivalent would be and write your name out. So I asked her about this, and she said, yeah, she'd do it. So I think that will be a raffle prize once a month. So it doesn't matter how much you support, like everyone gets a chance to do that. So so that's Patreon. Now, let me see here. Man, my scrolling is really weird on this. Okay, so I'm just going to take a sip of water. All right, for non-Japanese videos, how would you like them presented? And so these are the videos that are not shot in Japan. And like I've said before, the reason that I started making these videos is I wanted to show what life is like around the world, not just Japan. So the answer that people wanted the most was if a country is visited by the family, so all of us, and we do, similar style videos, but just in a different country. So that's at 70%. Whereas a country comparison, that's rated relatively high, and maybe down here is the easier way to read it. So I guess if somebody films a country or, what their life is like in their country, and then we make a similar one in Japan, and then we can combine and compare, that's pretty highly rated as well. So I think we did something like that with May before, so from England, and maybe we'll just do a few of those instead. And then just only by me is 51%, so not as high. And then, so a video that many contribute to, so that's what we've currently been doing, is 26%. And just a single creator is at 17%. And so that's kind of really good to know, because I was thinking about doing just single creators, but trying to make sure they're, kind of have similar style to what I have with filming. And I thought this would be a more popular option, but apparently it's not. So I guess if I'm going to do a single creator, try to do them in a comparison versus what it's like in Japan. So it's good to know, really good to know. Now, this might seem a little bit counterintuitive, because the answer you get in here is a bit different. So what's the best way to involve the community? And the best way is to, I'll go down here, feature collaboration of their videos 1 to 2 minutes each. And this is what we usually do. So that's the top answer. So 53% thought, that's the best way to involve the community. Okay. Now the second one was feature a single 15 to 30 second clip at the end of each video, and then feature a single community video is the lowest again. So yeah, I've already tried the number one thing, and people don't seem to respond as well to those. Not to say that I won't keep on doing them, but they're definitely not as popular. So how could we, and popularity doesn't really matter to me that much. I mean, I have stuff on the Life Where I'm From X channel that's definitely not as popular, and other videos that are not as popular that I really like that's on the regular channel. But I think is whether people want to, watch this over and over again or have a really strong connection to it. And I think the collaboration videos, the theme or the storyline is just not as strong as videos made by a single or maybe just even just two creators. So I think that's what I'll try. But I do want to involve the community, and the single video clips sound like a cool way to do it. So I'll try that out. And some people responded in the comments. Where was it? I remember they're talking about Good Mythical Morning with Red and Link over here. They do something like that. So yeah, I could try it out. I mean, it's a pretty easy thing to try out. No harm, no foul. The thing that I hated, though, is having people submit videos, and they spend a lot of time on it, right? They can spend a few days to make a video, and then I only put it in for like 5 seconds. I just feel so bad about that. Yeah, but moving on. If we were to visit outside of Japan, what part of the world should we go to? Europe was the #1 answer, followed by Asia. And then a lot of people named their own places. Now, my personal favorite was Africa, and that's over at 4%. And I said this in the update video, but my wife's like, no, don't go to Africa. And I'm like, okay, let me pick the safest place in Africa. And so I think it was Botswana. It has kind of the safest rating. So I'm like, oh, how about Botswana? So I don't know. I think it would be, the reason that I wanted to go to Africa is because you don't see a lot of Africa on YouTube. So I thought it's kind of interesting. The other thing is that, I don't know if this 5 or 10 years ago, I was filming a conference at a university, and the person was showing what all the cities in Africa look like. And they were trying to say that usually when you see Africa, it's, you know, it's happy people, but it's very poor people in like, you know, mud huts, and or you see, you know, going on safaris and stuff like that. So that's kind of your image of Africa, is like, you know, poor, starving kids, war-torn places, or it's like travel adventure, yay. But I really don't know the answer to this, but I mean, I know they have big cities, and I would like to see kind of what is the everyday life of, you know, a few different people. And sure, if it's the mud hut life, then, you know, that's cool. I would like to see what that's really like, you know, more in depth than what you see in a 5-minute or 10-minute thing. Or maybe they're living in, like, you know, houses that are pretty similar to ours in North America, and okay, let's see what that looks like. And so I thought it would have been kind of interesting to go to. So why didn't you choose Africa? But Europe is, I think my wife's a lot more amenable to Europe. And after getting like community videos submitted and talking to people from around the world, it really kind of re-sparked my interest to travel. And there's a lot of cool things that I think are being done in the Nordic countries and Germany, and just the different ways about thinking about common problems, from the transportation systems to the education system, social welfare. I think it'd be really interesting to go. So, you know, Europe's cool too. Anywhere's cool, really. My only exception for this traveling thing is, you know, I do agree with my wife that I want to be safe, and or maybe feel safe or comfortable. So my thing is, I think I'm a very trusting guy, and like I travel, like the equipment is worth quite a bit of money, the computer equipment and the video equipment. It's like over $10,000 worth of equipment that I'd be traveling with. So do I just really take a cheap camera and laptop and just, you know, that way if something gets stolen, you know, okay. Or, you know, do I bring my full gear and bring the full quality there, but then run that risk? Like, I don't know. It's, or maybe I'm just overthinking it, that it's, you know, really most of these places are pretty safe. And as long as I have a local fixer or handler or family, you know, helping me along, then it'll be totally fine. Okay, so is there another YouTuber you'd like to see us collaborate? If so, what should the video be about? So this one is interesting because I added this totally last minute. I thought, well, I'm just, you know, doing these questions, and if I'm going to get maybe 500 or 1,000 people, it'd be kind of interesting to see who they'd like us to collaborate with. And I couldn't just, I mean, this wasn't a, you know, a radio button type of thing, so it's hard to collate. So I had to create a spreadsheet and do a find and search, and these are the results. So Simon and Martina are #1, and Rachel and June are pretty much not behind them. And I think the reason that they were chosen, well, part of it, I think they're just, you know, big channels, so more people know about them. But I think it's the way they present the information. We kind of have similar styles. The personalities are different, but I mean, we try to maybe get more into the cultural explanations. Now, only in Japan, abroad in Japan, Charlotte in Japan, everybody in Japan, but only in Japan and abroad in Japan, I think their take on their Japanese experiences are unique on YouTube, so I think that's why people chose them. And then Charlotte in Japan, I mean, she's obviously big on YouTube as well, in Japan, and so the ideas for talking, I mean, I'm sure with Rachel and June, Simon and Martina, let me start with Simon and Martina. So Simon and Martina, I remember watching a video of theirs where they're talking about how Japan kind of suits them more than Korea. And one of the reasons was that it was kind of like like an old person lifestyle, like more calm, relaxed. And I really related to that. So it might be cool to like talk to them and dig more into that subject, because that's kind of similar to my feelings. Rachel and June, we have international marriages, both of us. So that could be interesting. Maybe something even, more unique would be, so June went to school in Japan, as far as I know, and my kids go to school in Japan. So maybe kind of seeing how, the Japanese school system has changed over the years, like his experiences versus my kids' experiences. Only in Japan, we were going to do something, didn't, come to fruition because we couldn't get, filming rights or access to film. But, I'm sure we'll work on something. So I don't, think we'll lack in any ideas. Abroad in Japan, so his channel is a bit different than ours, but I'm a huge fan of Chris's work. I really like his take on things, and my kids have seen a few of the videos as well, so they're familiar with Chris. So I thought, like Chris is, very, sarcastic in his videos, and I think most people get it. Maybe some people don't, but maybe it'd be nice to have a more serious conversation with him about, his life in Japan and, some things. So maybe that could be a thing. Or you can kind of go totally fun and have Chris and the kids maybe go through an obstacle course and just kind of have the kids show them, the Japanese obstacle course. Maybe that'd be kind of cool. Who knows? Charlotte in Japan. So if I remember correctly, she had a video with maybe Rachel or Michaela or something like that, where she said she didn't want to raise her kids in Japan. I think so. But I thought that was kind of interesting because, we are both Canadians and, obviously we both live in Japan as well. And I had very strong reservations about bringing my kids to Japan. That was probably the number one thing that I was worried about going to Japan, is if the kids would be okay in school. And to my surprise, I think they largely are. And I'm pleasantly surprised with the school system. It's a lot less, just straightforward languages and mathematics than I thought it would be. They have art classes and culture classes, science classes, home economics with cooking and sewing, and field trips everywhere, cultural festivals. They have a really strong gym program. So there's a lot of things they learn just beyond straight, memorizing things. There's too much homework for my liking. But I find the teachers are nice and the principals are nice. At least maybe we lucked out in the school, who knows, and the kids are accepted in the school. So it'd be interesting to talk to Charlotte about her thoughts about sending or not sending her potential kids to school in Japan. And then we have a roundup of just a few other people in here. Internationally, me, Angela, we've already made a video. And actually, I have another video with her. I don't think she's featured a ton in it, but we're walking randomly around Tokyo, but she's in it for sure. Actually, I have one with Yuta as well in it, so that'll be coming out. Now, Michaela, that's interesting because she's only 10, so I thought she might be a little bit higher. My kids and I watched her whole series. She had this series called Afternoon in the Park, or Afternoon, and then Hirusagawari. Yeah, sorry, I'm really bad at remembering the names. But it's a whole series, and it didn't get that many views, but my kids and I really loved watching it. And we've watched it a couple times, like the whole series throughout, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I like the way Michaela covers topics, and that she's just been on YouTube for such a long time, and obviously we're fellow Canadians, so I thought it'd be interesting to talk to her. This one I found out, and I didn't think about this until I saw it, but Geography Now with Paul or Barbie, he makes videos about countries all over the world, and he's doing it alphabetically from A to Z. And he does some travel videos where he actually goes to these countries as well. So hey, like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool to you know, talk with Paul. Like, I mean, I would just like to chat with the guy. It'd be an interesting thing. So I mean, when I first started the channel, I didn't want to do collaborations because I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand what we were making. So I wanted to just kind of do things on our own and just like figure that out. But, you know, now, I mean, I think collaborations with channels that, you know, we like, we get along with, and that's content we watch, that's an interesting idea. I think there could be things to be learned. So who knows, if these people are interested in collaborating, I'm open to it. So I'll leave it at that. Okay. And, okay. Why do you watch Life Where I'm From channel? Now these are 9,000 responses. I'm still reading them. So this is just amazing. Like here, let's see. It's informative, but also soothing and not sensational. It feels like a modern day, more intimate PBS documentary series. That's a really nice compliment. And I think that's kind of what, you know, I was going for, is I wanted to show just kind of the real everyday life, and not make things too fantastical, and not just talk about like the crazy stuff that goes on. So yeah. And there's here, because I want to get in touch with my Japanese roots. I found a lot of people, you know, telling me about that, where either they are part Japanese or they are just mixed races, and it kind of, you know, helps them feel a little more connected, even if they're not Japanese, but like they can kind of understand what's happening, like being in kind of two cultures at once, or two countries at once. Yeah, so these are really, really nice to read, and I've been reading them all. But I mean, to actually share them all with you would take forever, like a long time. But it's a good long time. So now, this Any Last Words was the final chance for people to say something, and there were a ton of great ideas, ton of great comments. And what I've been doing is I have a separate Word document where I copy and paste certain ideas or thoughts, and that page, it's becoming quite a long document. So this one, I take a very work-like approach to it, where I have to make sure that I'm in the mood to like read it, think about the idea, and then, you know, put it into that document. So because I want to get through all the ideas, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, like, use drone footage. Okay, maybe I might use drone footage. Who knows? But yeah, this, I mean, the response has just been phenomenal. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, I think this is a good, I mean, it's the end, so I think I should end the video here. All right, so thank you so much for watching, as always. Catch you on the flip side. Bye.